Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan. I'll be your presenter this evening. We bring you this each evening as a special partnership we share with Alaska Public Media. We hope you enjoy the content of this program. If you'd like additional information, you can always go online, weather.gov. It'll bring you to the National Weather Service's primary interactive online forecast advisory and warning map. We can see right now the continental U.S., a lot of pink on there. That actually represents fire weather issues, red flag warnings extending from Nebraska down through the central southern plains into Texas, Louisiana, along the Gulf Coast. Dry conditions, windy conditions there enhancing fire danger risk. And then where skies have cleared, colder air has settled in and winds fall off. You see the darker kind of purplish blue. Those are freeze warnings across Missouri and extending into areas of the northern deep south. Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia are under frost advisory. So there's been a pretty good push of colder air through the Great Lakes, upper Midwest, and down into the south. So this is the kind of information you can find out by checking out this site. Please do if you have some time. Otherwise, across the state of Alaska, we have a cold front advancing through the eastern interior, and this has brought about quite a change. Yesterday, this time, Fairbanks had a high around 46 degrees. This afternoon, they've been in the mid-upper teens. They might squeak out 20, but quite a big change, quite a bit colder. Northwest part of the state, it's really cold air has resided. We have winter weather advisories in effect for coastal areas of western and southern areas of the coastal Seward Peninsula, as well as around Norton Sound extending toward Eamonnok. They're anticipating some stronger winds creating some blowing and drifting snow, a little bit of light falling snow as well as a warm front pushes in off of the Bering Sea here over the early weekend. Otherwise, dry and cooler weather will overspread the panhandle. The scattered mixed showers that have been occurring are going to let up and provide, at least there in the panhandle this weekend, some opportunity to enjoy some sunshine, though nighttime temperatures where skies are clear could drop below freezing. And overall, we're looking at mid-April temperatures to average above normal over southwestern Alaska, but below normal throughout the southeast interior down into the panhandle. And current weather advisories in effect, we have winter weather advisories mainly for blowing snow up there, the eastern Arctic coast around Kaktovik, and then also surrounding Norton Sound, including the western and southern coast of the Seward Peninsula from Nome down around Stebbins, as well as Eamonnok. And that will be into the day on Saturday as we expect a warm front to be trying to slowly work its way from out of the central Bering toward the west-southwest coast. And looking at the FAA webcams from across the state, Kotzebue, lingering cold, 12 below zero this early afternoon. This morning, Kotzebue tied their record low temperature of 25 below, and there have been a number of communities experiencing temperatures around 25 to 30 below this Friday morning. In fact, Selawik hit 31 below zero, so that's where some of the coldest air is residing, and that will eventually, you're going to see your temperatures moderate across the west and northwest part of the state. Down through Black Rapids there, the Alaska Range, some gustier winds, partly sunny, a few flurries, only 8 above. And then as we go down into the Kenai Peninsula, Seward, partly cloudy. You can see the snow there on the mountains, sun reflecting off the bay, 41 degrees. And Wrangell in the southern interior coastal mountains, up against the southern interior coastal mountains of the Panhandle. There have been some mixed rain, snow showers in the area. Temperature at 43. In fact, you can see one of those showers there just off to the right of that image. So another thing that happened earlier this week on April 5th, we had some changes in the way the National Weather Service office forecast responsibilities. This is mainly transparent to you, but just so you understand. Anchorage, the responsibility has gone from Anchorage to Fairbanks for Cantwell in the Denali area, and for Hooper Bay and Shevak in the southwest. So now Fairbanks will be responsible for those areas. Fairbanks to Anchorage. Anchorage will now be responsible for Mentasta Lake and Chisana there in the eastern Alaska Range. And then also has been added a new marine zone, 201, Etolan Strait to Dowell Point. That'll be Fairbanks office responsibility. So if you'd like more information, should be able to find that in the news headlines at the top of the National Weather Service Anchorage and Fairbanks web pages. Looking at the satellite imagery, we do have weak low pressure just kind of lingering over the northwestern Gulf, some moisture that has crept northward up through especially the central eastern Alaska Range. It's a long cold front that's slowly working its way through the eastern interior right now, approaching the Alcan border. Still moisture down there over the Panhandle in the form of some scattered mixed rain and snow showers, a few lingering flurries and lighter snow showers along at least the southern half of the Alaska Peninsula. And then as we get out toward the Bering, there is a warm front that'll be bringing in a little warmer, more moist air that'll trigger some areas of primarily light snow, but the stronger winds can cause that blowing and drifting snow as we get ahead through the overnight and into at least Saturday morning. Some areas lingering a little longer there, especially coastal areas surrounding Norton Sound. Otherwise, there's the low this afternoon sitting just off the Kenai coast. That will continue to weaken as the cold front continues to press eastward toward the Alcan border, and that will bring a change to the last holdout of any milder temperatures. Say a place like Eagle or Northway may still be above freezing at least this Friday afternoon, but definitely look forward to some colder temperatures. Then high pressure takes over later tonight and into the day on Saturday. We have a strong ridge of high pressure extending from the southeast Bering Sea along the southwest coast, right up along the west side and north of the Alaska Range into the central interior. So this feature will be prevailing, and then we have the little push of warmer air coming in off the central and northern Bering up into Norton Sound and the Seward Peninsula, triggering some gustier winds and some patchy areas of light snow and blowing snow. And by the time we get into Sunday, we still see that high pressure in place, lower Yukon River Valley down across the southwest into the Alaska Peninsula and south of Kodiak Island, 1042 high centered there up along the lower portion of the Yukon River Valley, weaker troughs along the Arctic coast and sitting off of the Panhandle. But as I mentioned, offshore flow should bring the Panhandle a little drier weather as another low pressure will be approaching the central Aleutians from the North Pacific. So lows tonight will be near freezing there in the Panhandle. Areas that clear out could dip a little below. Colder temperatures at night with any clearing could be down single digits above or below zero, especially along and west of the Alaska Range. Saturday afternoon temperatures will generally be around or a bit above freezing south central areas. Still holding up the low mid 40s in the Panhandle. Sunday morning lows may come up a little bit across the south central interior. Still though below freezing on the cool side, and where there is clearing, especially by Sunday morning, interior areas there, inner channels of the Panhandle could see temperatures drop in some areas into the mid upper 20s. Sunday afternoon high so should still recover low mid 40s for the Panhandle. Upper 30s to lower 40s south central areas. In the north, as I mentioned, the coldest air has been sitting up across the northwest side. The state, that's going to begin to moderate a bit. Still some 20s below, not out of the question there. Western Brooks Range, western half of the North Slope. And then afternoon high Saturday afternoon, still near, plus a few degrees above or below zero along the Arctic coast and North Slope. Generally 20s through the Yukon Valley, coming up to around freezing at Nome and down toward Imanak. And then Sunday morning lows, coldest there along the North Slope up through the Yukon Flats, east side of the Brooks Range. And daytime highs will begin to creep back upwards and recover up through the lower middle Yukon Valley, back up above freezing. And extending out through the southwest, we anticipate lows some areas along and just west of the Alaska Range, a bit below zero. And coastal areas, upper teens to near 20 as you get down there, the lower Kuskokwim and Yukon deltas. Saturday afternoon should get temperatures back up around or just above freezing there across the southwest coast. And certainly as you extend out through the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians, and then Sunday morning lows just to bump up a little bit more, teens, lower 20s for the southwest interior, near and above freezing, extending out through the Aleutians. And Sunday afternoon, we should see temperatures creeping back up well into the 30s to around 40 degrees as we go up the Kuskokwim and Yukon rivers. And here is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook centered on April 14th through the 16th for mid-April. Temperatures are expected to average below normal, especially over the southeast interior, Copper River Basin, down into the Panhandle. Areas to the west, the southwest, including the southwest coast, Bethel, Dillingham, above normal. And precipitation will average a bit above normal, south central areas in the far northwest, and then below normal along and north of the Brooks Range, including the North Slope.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, it's now time for your aviation weather. If you have a flight planned over this weekend, we'll start out Saturday morning. High pressure centered over the southeast bearing around Bristol Bay, extending northeastward, a ridge that runs up along the west side of the Alaska Range to the Yukon Flats. We've had a push of colder air work its way up through the eastern portion of the state along the Alcan border, and then a push of a milder moist air up across the west side of the state, association with a warm front, so we expect widespread IFR conditions from areas of the western interior through Seward Peninsula, especially Norton Sound, lower Yukon Delta, and back out across Nunavik Island and St. Lawrence. Saturday afternoon, we'll see those IFR conditions relax a little bit, but continue. They are centered on Norton Sound, a few pockets extending inland up the Yukon River. And then Sunday, more widespread IFR conditions are anticipated along and north and especially west-northwest of the Alaska Range, encompassing much of the lower middle Yukon Valley, Seward Peninsula on up into the northwest Arctic coast. And then Sunday afternoon, conditions will improve enough to have some pockets still there, mainly on the southern side of the western Brooks Range, and then a broad area of IFR conditions out across the central western Aleutians as another low lifts up out of the North Pacific. Past conditions for Saturday, Anitukvik Pass should generally see MVFR conditions. There could be a few pockets of IFR the further south you fly of the south entrance toward the Yukon River. Adigan Pass, generally MVFR conditions are anticipated Saturday. And then down across Lake Clark and Merrill passes, we expect VFR conditions, as I showed you earlier, that ridge of high pressure extending from Bristol Bay all the way along the west side of the Alaska Range into the Yukon Flats. Rainy Pass should generally see VFR conditions, so there could be a little MVFR conditions at times just on the west as you fly past the west entrance. Windy Pass should see VFR conditions in the morning, giving way to MVFR conditions as we go through the afternoon. Further east, Isabel will be MVFR becoming VFR. And Mentasta Pass will actually see some moisture hanging on, maybe some lower ceilings, IFR conditions there in the morning, giving way to MVFR conditions. And Tanita Pass should see MVFR conditions lift to VFR. And Portage Pass, generally MVFR conditions, giving way to VFR conditions with the best chance of VFR conditions there, west entrance. But otherwise, Chilkoot and White will start out with IFR conditions early Saturday, giving way to VFR. And looking at freezing levels, the surface freezing line runs through the outer coast of the Panhandle, northern Gulf, and then it swings way southeast of Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula before turning back up toward the northwest across the central Bering. And you can see surface freezing, or I should say the 2,000 and 4,000 foot freezing isotherms are way south there in the North Pacific. There is a potential for some icing, just isolated and moderate icing. One area where there'll be some scattered snow showers across the Yukon Territory between 2,000 and 10,000 feet. More likely, a little better chance could be some isolated moderate icing out along west side of the state, especially south side there of the Seward Peninsula and the lower Yukon Delta, including areas around Nunavik Island and especially St. Lawrence and St. Matthew. And looking at the upper level jet stream winds, we have a high pressure circulation showing all the way aloft at 30,000 feet there just off the west coast in Nunavik Island. A couple of most notable wind features, 140 knot wind max from the northwest out over the North Pacific south of Haida Gwaii and southwest of Vancouver, and then an anticyclonically curved 105 knot jet max with winds out of the west-northwest across the lower Chukchi Sea. Bring it down to 9,000 feet. We can see that high pressure there sitting off the southwest coast, the circulation around it, anticyclonic curve jet max along the Russian Kamchatka coast to 50 and 65 knots. And then bringing it down to 3,000 feet, we see that high still along the southwest coast, just off there of the Kuskokwim Delta, with the circulation around that bringing some winds 45 to near 50 knots into the central eastern Aleutians from the southeast, and then curving around to the southwest along the Kamchatka and Russian coast upwards to 50 knots. This will translate to some pockets of turbulence, moderate turbulence along the Yukon River, especially east of Norton Sound, surface to 4,000 feet, also including St. Lawrence Island, and then another area, a broader area across the central and eastern Aleutians with considerable moderate turbulence from the surface to 4,000 feet.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute. So it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the MPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back, and we'll take a look at the sea ice edge. Continues to be rather far south down into at least the southeast portion of the Bering Sea around St. Paul and St. George. We don't anticipate any significant movement here in the course of the weekend. It'll continue to linger there down off the southwest coast and around the Pribilof Islands. Meanwhile, we are going to see a push of a little milder air coming through the central Bering on up along the southwest coast and through Norton Sound and the Seward Peninsula, so that increased wind may cause some blowing and drifting snow. That's why there are winter weather advisories in effect for the coastal areas surrounding Norton Sound, including St. Lawrence Island. For the southeast and interior, though, we're going to have more northerly winds, north-northwest winds on Saturday around 10 knots, waves just a couple of feet. Drier air, a little cooler conditions, some sunshine for a change. Along the outer Gulf Coast, winds 15 to 20 knots out of the northwest, waves 7 to 8 feet. On Sunday, we continue to see more of an offshore flow, and you can see winds as high as 30 knots down the length of Lynn Canal, with 6-foot waves elsewhere, a little more mixed, lighter 10 to 15 knots, Petersburg down toward Ketchikan. And then generally along the Gulf Coast, offshore flow out of the northeast around 20 knots, waves 6 to 7 feet. In the northwest Gulf, still some gusty winds, 30, even 40 knot gusts possible south of Seward there out over the open waters of the Gulf, and upwards to 35 knots from the northwest at the entrance of Cook Inlet, and 30 knot northwest winds Prince William Sound with waves there 3-4 feet. Sunday winds come down across the region, generally 10 to 15 knots out of the northeast and north through the middle and upper portion of Cook Inlet, and northwesterly to 20 knots at the entrance of Cook Inlet. Northwest winds 15 knots across Prince William Sound and waves a few feet. Across Kodiak Island, winds will generally be out of the north around 30 knots, waves 6 feet. Shelikof Strait 6 feet there on the North Pacific Gulf side of the Alaska Peninsula. Look for winds as high as northeasterly around 25 knots as you get out toward the end of the Alaska Peninsula and north of Cold Bay there, 6-foot waves as well. Sunday, winds will be variable around Kodiak Island, only around 10 knots there, Shelikof Strait and off of Chicknick. Areas out through at least the Bering and North Pacific as you get out towards Sandpoint, Cold Bay, False Pass. Winds are going to turn more southeast to east, 25 to 30 knots. Waves as high as 10, 11 feet there as you get south of Sandpoint. Across the Aleutians, the central and southern Aleutians, winds will generally be out of the east 30 knots on Saturday. Waves as high as 12 to 17 feet on the North Pacific side, 7 to 10 feet on the Bering side. And for Sunday, with that next area of low pressure approaching from the North Pacific, we're going to see gale force winds of 35 to 40 knots across much of the central and eastern Aleutians, waves building 15 to 19 feet on the North Pacific side, and anywhere from 10 to as high as 16 feet on the Bering side. Across the southwest coast, on up into Norton Sound, winds Saturday could gust as high as 30, 35 knots there, especially south of St. Lawrence and on up toward entering Norton Sound. Ice remaining in place there all the way down towards St. Paul and St. George. On Sunday, winds will be more easterly in the lower Bering, 20 to 30 knots there, St. Paul and St. George, but then turning southwesterly, 20 knots or so around St. Lawrence on into Norton Sound as a little warmer air finally rides up along the southwest coast up into the Seward Peninsula. And across the Arctic coast, winds will be generally around 20 knots, maybe as high as 25 knots still, especially early Saturday at Kaktovik. And then along the lower Chukchi offshore flow out of the east-southeast, 10 to 15 knots before turning back around south of Bering Strait, southwest winds to 30 knots around south of Wales through Port Clarence and Nome, where there'll be some blowing, drifting snow, especially overnight tonight into Saturday morning. By Sunday, winds are going to come down generally in the 10 to 15 knot range along the northern Arctic coast, and turning southwesterly up through the lower Chukchi Sea, especially south of Cape Lisburne, down through the Bering Strait, and on the north side of St. Lawrence Island, southwest winds to 20 knots. And a quick check, there's that little frontal boundary going to be pushing in up toward the west coast. We have a strong high pressure ridge extending from the southeast Bering on up into the Alaska interior as the cold front works its way east and weakens, and then that high pressure will be in charge, especially through the southwest and central mainland on Saturday. So everyone, thanks for watching and have a restful night.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.